into the Wuhan Institute of Virology. On board, international experts representing the World Health Organization. Their mission? To find the origin of COVID-19.
What we're trying to do right now at this stage is keep an open mind about every possibility.
CNN connected with zoologist Peter Daszak. He's part of the source tracing assignment here in China. Speaking to us from his hotel room in Wuhan, he had just visited the Virology Institute's highly secured and highly controversial lab. It is from here that former U.S. President Donald Trump and his Secretary of State Mike Pompeo have alleged without any evidence the virus originated.
I think they made a horrible mistake, and they didn't want to admit it.
China has rejected the claim.
It was good to see the lab, and you confirmed your suspicions that it's an incredibly well built, well-designed, well-managed lab.
Members of the scientific community have said that Daszak has a conflict of interest due to his close ties to the Wuhan Institute of Virology and its leading scientist, Shijeng Li.
Of the bat that actually had SARS-like coronavirus.
This video, shot in 2014, shows the pair inside the institute examining coronavirus samples collected from bats. They've jointly published several scientific research papers.
She speaks very openly and quite directly, and often goes counter to this sort of political trend.
Shijeng Li is known as Batwoman in China. She's reached celebrity status. Since the SARS outbreak in 2003, she has focused her research on bats and the various coronaviruses they carry. But after COVID-19 was first detected in Wuhan, less than 10 miles from where her lab is located, speculation surfaced that the virus leaked from her facility.
I've seen evidence that this likely came from the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
The Trump administration provided no evidence to support those claims. Do you think it's possible this virus was engineered within that lab and leaked?
There's no evidence of that at all. But it is something that we talked about with people at the Wuhan lab and got really honest and frank and good, informative answers to. Because they themselves brought this up. Conspiracies around lab leaks that they feel strongly have no grounds.
Swarmed by media throughout their site visits, the WHO field team also inspected the hospitals where the early COVID-19 patients were treated, along with the now infamous Huanan seafood market. This place had a lot of attention over the past 12 months paid to it. There was a lot of concern that perhaps the virus was still festering in spots, so the Chinese authorities essentially wiped it clean. Daszak and other experts agree it is most likely that the virus originated from wildlife. Though, without ruling it out, he stops short of concluding it started in the market or even in Wuhan. CNN obtained these images from December 2019. They show a variety of caged creatures inside the now shuttered seafood market.
We're still piecing together the evidence. So we're looking at the animal evidence. What was sold in the market? Where did it come from? What types of animals are they? The ones that could carry coronaviruses?
China's state media has also suggested, without evidence, the virus might have been imported into the city on frozen foods, a claim leading health experts have dismissed as completely groundless. But it is an origin theory Daszak is not ruling out. The team's field study expected to continue into next week. How restricted is it? How much freedom do you have?
Well, we're not running rogue here. We're talking to our hosts. We're in a foreign country. We're guests of China right now. So this is a good, collaborative, scientific approach to understanding more about the origins of COVID.
A virus that has both upended and taken millions of lives around the globe. The source, a mystery, likely to remain unsolved for years. David Culver, CNN, Shanghai.
Communications in Myanmar have been largely silenced 4 days into a military coup. But that has...
When Sue became sick with COVID-19, she felt helpless. A single mother of two, she said she had no option but to isolate herself in this tiny room. Her kids, aged 3 and 6, slept alone in this living room for nearly 2 weeks. Sue, who asked not to be identified by her real name because the stigma of COVID-19 still carries in Japan, says that since she has asthma and chronic bronchitis, her symptoms could suddenly turn worse. I wondered if I would wake up tomorrow She had a persistent high fever and trouble breathing, but she said she wasn't able to get guidance from her public health center in Hyogo Prefecture. The health center couldn't speak directly to her case, but said that though they tried to contact isolating patients daily, the holidays were incredibly busy. Japan is dealing with its worst wave of COVID-19 since the pandemic began. Hospitals are overwhelmed in some places. Seriously ill patients are being turned away. Japan has just extended its state of emergency in 10 prefectures for another month. Sue says she was unable to find anyone to take care of her children. Thankfully, Sue recovered, but not without emotional scars. I felt like I was abandoning my children. I was feeling sick, in terrible condition, but I felt more pain leaving my children alone. As of January 25th, more than 18,000 people across 11 prefectures who have tested positive for COVID are waiting for a hospital bed or space at an isolation center. That means more people are dying at home from COVID. Is it unthinkable that in Japan, a country with national health insurance, that so many people are waiting to get into a hospital?
Tens of thousands of people with COVID-19 had to stay home and they cannot have access to a healthcare system. They can't be hospitalized and they can't even see doctors. And that's a very harsh reality.
Cases in Japan have more than doubled in the past 2 months to more than 390,000 cases. Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga even made a rare apology for the country's inability to provide the necessary care. What exactly went wrong in Japan's response to the pandemic?
We didn't prepare the healthcare systems for infections, and this is the result of it.
Dr. Hideo Maeda is the head of a public health center in Kita Ward. His staff members have quadrupled to 40 since the pandemic started, but it's still not enough. The calls are non-stop. In his ward alone, every day, dozens of patients are waiting for hospital space.
Many staff members are working every day until midnight, on weekends and holidays. We're exhausted and overwhelmed with stress.
Yet Japanese officials insist that the Tokyo Olympic Games will still be held this summer. Sue says she still has some lingering symptoms from COVID, but she's just thankful to be able to hold her children again. When her isolation ended, the first thing they said to her was, "Ma, please hug me." Selena Wang, CNN, Tokyo.
Take a passing glance at Dubai and you may think life is back to normal. The bustling city, a sparkling attraction for Europeans and others trying to escape what is brutal winter months, of course, and strict coronavirus lockdowns. But as tourists flocked over, cases in Dubai began to surge. Now, Dubai cracking down on COVID-19 restrictions in its hospitality sector from now until the end of February. Hotels allowed to operate at just 70%, while restaurants and cafes must close by 1 a.m. Harsher penalties will be enforced for those who violate these measures. Well, these new rules come as countries like the UK have banned flights to and from Dubai, and a crushing blow to the city's tourism industry. The challenge now facing the government, how to keep the city's economy alive and well in the face of a global pandemic. CNN's John Defterios reports.
The winter sun on Cove Beach in Dubai. For those suffering from severe lockdowns in Europe and beyond, settings like this trigger a mixture of envy and anger. For Danish tourist Emma Mathilde, the backlash is not so surprising.
Everyone is going here and it's sunny and they can go out to eat, and then they start to post on social media, and then that's why people get furious of why we have to stay at home when other people are enjoying their lives.
Beach bars and A-list celebrities pumped out by social media influencers gave the impression that Dubai swung open its doors to the outside world. Not surprisingly, those seeking warmer climes and some fun in the sun joined in. Hotels, which suffered for nearly a year, saw bookings skyrocket. But so too did COVID-19 cases, quadrupling over levels that we saw last November.
All right, cool.
That surge happened despite the co-founder of Cove Beach saying that visitor numbers to his venue were only 1/3 of what they were pre-pandemic, in line with the emirate overall.
When Europe is shut down, unfortunately, and the US is shut down, and Asia, anything you do could look out of line.
The response in Britain's press, where the United Arab Emirates was placed on a travel ban red list, has been, in a word, fierce. Headlines dished out equal blame to visitors for being too cavalier and the emirate for going too far. Dubai, known for pushing the envelope with its glitzy offering of entertainment and architecture, is stepping up its response based on the data it's collecting, not the global fury. Halal Amari is Director General of Dubai's Tourism Authority.
We do look at this very carefully, sector by sector and subsector, to see where do we need to tighten and where do we need to lift the restrictions. And that will continue. It's nothing to do with what anybody else tells us, because there's a very clear plan.
As of Tuesday, beach clubs, hotels, and malls will be limited to 70% capacity, and cinemas cut to 50%. Bars and pubs have been temporarily shut down, with stiffer penalties for rule violators. The government points out that the UAE has already vaccinated, free of charge, nearly a fifth of its population, with the plan to inoculate half of all residents by the end of March. With that pace, the idea of going back to a full lockdown witnessed 10 months ago is not being considered. Is there complete buy-in within the government, even the health authority, which is under strain, that you can go with this methodology?
All of the decisions related to public health is led by our health authority and our scientists sitting there. Whatever they recommend, we work with the private sector to make sure it's implemented in the best possible way.
The economic reality is, with the oil wealth sitting in neighboring Abu Dhabi and a World Expo to host later this year, Dubai needs to keep tourism, trade, and services rolling. This view is shared by business owners and others who call Dubai home.
I think they've already sent the message to the world that if things get out of hand, we know that we're not shy to shut down and adjust immediately and not wait.
Now the government needs to convince the rest of the world that it has the right balance between safety and openness, with a few months left in its peak travel season.